All right, welcome to week two of Just Awful Sports. With me here is Jacob Fredericks, the one and only Jeffrey Capus. We're going to go over week one, recaps from a bunch of our leagues. We're going to give you our Just Awful calls of the week. Then we're going to do a little segment on like who popped and who dropped, and then maybe who not to panic on, and then I think we have a couple of interesting transaction uh, information. So let's get right to the point here. Jeffy, how did you do week one?
It wasn't too bad. Went 3-2. Had a pretty close loss, as you know, because that was to you. Um, that was in our keeper league. It was a tough one. I had a slim chance going into Monday night, but I just needed a little bit better quarterback play. I played Bo Nix, and that did not work out very well for me. But it was exactly as I predicted. I think I texted you right before the game. I said around 5 minutes left is when there's going to be things being thrown in my house. And right around the 6 minute left mark is when Jefferson got his touchdown to put you over the top. So that's when things started flying in my house. And that was the tough loss. But the other three that I did win, we won in our super flex. That felt pretty good. It was a nice, well balanced win. I think that could be sustained. And the other two, in the 14 teamer, I think I also had good balance. I waited a long time to get a quarterback, and I took Penix, and he was a nice surprise. And then in the League of Bastards, I'm happy with the depth that I have there. I had a little bit on my bench, but and I still need quarterback improvement there. But again, very balanced, so I was pretty happy with that. And in our quarterback heavy league, I didn't do horribly. I went up against a 54-point Josh Allen. So I'm not going to panic yet. I think I'm okay, but I do have some concerns with that team. So,
Jakey,
yeah,
how did
that's
you
where we're
do?
at.
Yeah, I started off in my very, very, very standard league. No PPR, nothing like that. I struggled quite a bit in that league. I really came down to Chase and Higgins combining for 3 points total. That was probably that was a that draft was not my that was probably not my best decision because when that offense struggles, those guys are going to struggle. I didn't get anything amazing from my running back play with Bucky Irving and Ashton Genty. I was able to get a touchdown, but nothing amazing. And overall, it really just came back to hurt me. I'm not super worried about that team yet because as Burrow and Chase and all them get going, I think I have some definitely some high weeks there with Jalen Hurts as my quarterback. I'm not too worried in that league. Get 6 points for a touchdown, but in my other league, I just had an okay, pretty good week. It wasn't anything too bad. No bad calls necessarily. Just went up against a pretty good team and went up against Josh Allen on Sunday Night Football. So it was a little bit unfortunate for me. And then Brian Thomas Jr. didn't quite do it. But in Joe from Phoenix's league that I obviously help out with, we were able to take a victory. Lamar Jackson really stepped for us. James Cook, James Conner even had a pretty good day. Jacoby Myers. So it was a well balanced week. I'm not ready to hit the panic button in that standard league quite yet, even though I went 3-11 last year. So there is obviously cause for concern in that league.
Yep, can't argue there. So in the for me that same non PPR league, I had Burrow, uh, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Trey McBride. Um, yeah, I lost by 40 points. 40 points. Like you would think that would be that lineup would be okay. Yeah, I got spanked, and the commissioner was very quick to point it out first thing on Tuesday morning. So, Jeffy, you mentioned that 14 team league that we're in. That's another one where I got spanked. Jerome Ford, Tyreek Hill, and the $45 I paid for AJ Brown in that league.
Ooh.
Um, that kind of hurt.
That's about $20 a point, I think, on that, isn't it?
Yeah. That's one of our more expensive leagues. You think I'd learn my lesson, but um, in the quarterback heavy one, I had Mahomes who came on strong in the second half, which was nice. Puka, I'm glad McCaffrey. All the worry that I had going into Sunday about McCaffrey, um, was put to the wayside for at least now. And then I had Marvin in there. So all in all, not bad. And I think you had a nickname for your quarterback who you had in 3 leagues. Does he have a new name now there, Jeff? I kind of like that.
Yeah, he's part of my Just Awful segment. We were going to bring it up then.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
We
mean,
can we
as
can
of right
wait.
now, we got to call him Bo Picks.
Jeez.
All right, so that's week one recaps. Let's talk about like who really popped out for you, who dropped out. We probably have some similars here, so we might hopefully not repeat each other. Jeff, who do you got for popped and dropped?
I've got a bunch on the popped. I don't want to cover all of them because you guys might have some, but there was some really good insights on. I think RJ Harvey looked really good. Only 6 carries for 70, but I think that bodes well for long term, showing that he's got that explosiveness. I hope that he builds a little bit of trust there. The other one I'm looking at was on Monday night. Jordan Mason just completely outrushed
Yeah. Aaron Jones.
Jones. So yeah. So, 15 for 68, 1 for 7. He just looked like a better running back up there in Minnesota. And then, another one that I'm looking at is Tyler Warren, 7 for 76. He also had a carry for 3. He was very involved. That's a lot of targets, a lot of looks, a lot of opportunity for him in his first game. So really excited about those 3 players for what the rest of the season has to offer.
Jacob, what about you? Who are you excited about?
I know I've talked about him before. I was actually really excited about Kyle Pitts this week. I just think as the second half kind of came along, he started to get more targets. He looked way more dynamic than I've seen him look in his first few years in the league. And I think he's kind of proven that, or at least Michael Penix has, that he's going to be looking for him. So if they can get him involved just a little earlier in the game, I think he's a 10, 12-point tight end, and that's going to bode well for you in a lot of leagues. Another guy would be Quentin Johnson on the Friday night game in LA. I mean, that Chargers offense looked really good. They looked real good against that Kansas City defense, and he looks like he can actually catch the football for once. And so Quentin Johnson, I think, will be a guy to be looking for in the forward. And then Travis Etienne Jr. In Jacksonville. I mean, he did well enough where they traded his backup. So I think Travis Etienne looks quite good. Jacksonville looked a lot better than I expected them to on the offensive side of the football, and so I think he's another guy that really popped off for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a trio of running backs actually that haven't been mentioned. One was for the Dallas Cowboys, a guy who I traded away to make sure I got CMC's backup, which I was glad I did. But Javonte Williams, 2 tugs in his first game, actually looked pretty good against the Eagles. The Eagles defense looked like it kind of struggled. We all know why, because well, their best defensive lineman decided to hock a loogie on somebody uh, before the first play of the game. And then a couple of people, one that we have talked about, and we actually drafted on our Superflex league, Trey Benson for the Arizona Cardinals. He looked really good. I mean, if they do a split, not great for fantasy, but great for the Cardinals team. I think he's going to get a lot more carries and touches this year. And then I don't know where this came from because I thought Kenneth Walker was the starter in Seattle, but Zach Charbonnet, uh, he looked like the starter. He looked really good. I think he also got a touchdown, got in the end zone as well.
Yes, he did.
I think he might be taking over as the starter. I mean, because Walker generally struggles with some health issues, and Charbonnet looked really sharp on Sunday. So it's a
Yeah, he
great
had
trio of running backs.
Yeah, he had 2 more carries than Walker did. So
What about some? Who did you not like on Sunday? I guess that's going to be. There's probably a whole bunch of them that you could list, but give me a couple at least.
yeah, the 2 that popped out at me are AJ Brown, and I know he's a superstar, and I know he'll probably he's definitely not going to do what he did in game 1, but there's a reason I avoided him in drafts, and it's because that is a very run-heavy team, and the script may not always be what it was in game 1, but it's going to be that a lot, and so I don't think the targets are going to they're going to obviously increase a little bit, but I don't think it's a sustained superstardom year for AJ Brown in that offense. And then the other one, you mentioned Charbonnet looking like the better back. That's why I put Walker on here. I just think Kenneth Walker. I think he's got some nagging injuries. 2 yards a carry, 1.3 yards per catch. I just don't. I'm not feeling it for the rest of the season for him, and I think Charbonnet is definitely not just knocking on the door; he's pushing his way through.
Can't agree more there. Jacob?
My first one I'm going to go with is Tyreek Hill until he gets traded halfway through the season, if he gets traded, because that Miami offense, they looked really bad. Like I expected Indianapolis to have, the Dolphins weren't supposed to be that good anyway. That was really bad to watch. That was a very tough watch, and Tua did not look good. So until Tyreek Hill is on a better team, I just don't see him getting more than 5-8 fantasy points a game, and that's just not what you want from your wide receiver 2 in fantasy. And then I'm gonna go with the quarterback, actually, C.J. Stroud. I was high on C.J. Stroud in the offseason. I thought he was gonna have a rebound here. I know the Rams defense is not bad, but that Texans offense still does not look the same as it did just 2 years ago. So I'm going to go C.J. Stroud, and then I'm just going to throw in some of the 49ers players, some of the skill position guys. Without Brock Purdy, he's going to be out for the next few weeks. I mean, I think it's going to be a rough few weeks in San Francisco. So those are the guys I probably hit the panic button on a little bit.
You don't think Mac, what's his name? Mac, I forgot their backup's last name. It's escaping me. But he'll be starting in place of Purdy. I'm actually going with a couple of teams, so I'm not going to go with individual players that I don't think is going to be representative of what's to come. But one of those is anybody on the Miami Dolphins. Um, that entire office. I mean, Achan got in with a late touchdown. I don't even know why he was playing when they were down 33 points. When he's been suffering with an injury for most of the training camp, but they look bad. And I'm a Dolphins fan, and they just look bad. And then I really expected more out of Cincinnati across the board. Um, Jacob, I'm sorry with your two wide receivers, but even
No.
Burrow struggled. Even Chase Brown didn't look there. I mean, they just didn't look that good. And it should. I know the Browns can, sometimes play tough on defense, but it was just
They
hard to watch.
They never look good in week one though. They haven't looked good in week one for the last 4 years. I mean, Joe Burrow has never had. I don't think since his rookie years had a good week one. So I would disagree at least on hitting the panic button quite yet. But you
No,
go
no,
ahead.
no, no, no. I'm not panicking. That was just,
Yeah.
the bad thing. Well, which segues nice into our next topic, Jeff. Who should we not panic and try to drop or try to bench, right away?
Well, I got a bunch on this one too because it is week one. Two of them that I do have on there are Chase and Burrow. If you've got those guys stacked, don't panic. Like you were saying, Cleveland's got a decent defense. I believe that was a road game, if I'm not mistaken.
You are correct.
Division game to start. So I'm not panicking with those guys. They are going to get their numbers over the course of the season. I'm also not yet panicking on Jahmyr Gibbs. 9 for 19 on the ground, but he's not going to face that defense every week. He's got him one more time, but he's not going to face him every week. And he did come up with 10 catches, so in a PPR, that's going to help. But it was only for 31 yards. But again, I am not panicking on him. I think he's still got a long, a bright future, beyond that, playing the Packer defense. And I'm going to throw one more out here. Omarion Hampton. I know a lot of people might have had to try to count on him for a week one, big load, big result. He did get 15 carries, 2 catches for 13. So he's not a superstar yet, but it bodes well that he's got 17 touches in his first game. So I'm looking forward to good things from him over the course of the season.
Definitely. Jacob, what do you got?
Well, I actually have a few guys similar to Jeff. Chase and Burrow were the top two that I wrote down. Don't panic yet. They'll be fine. The Detroit Lions in general, don't panic on them. They're not going to be the same as they were last year. I don't think it's time to put the panic button. They played a Packers team who looks like a Super Bowl contender. So I wouldn't be quite worried about anyone on the Detroit Lions list. I'm gonna say Calvin Ridley. His targets were kind of there. He had a few he had a few big drops in that game. I think he comes up with those in later weeks. I think Calvin Ridley will be just fine as Cam Ward kind of starts to get settled in a little bit more as well. And then Drake May. I'm not out on
Yeah,
Drake May quite
yeah.
yet. I think Drake
Sertan
May.
was locking him down, so that was the big deal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think Drake May in New England. I think they played a pretty decent Raiders defense actually. So I think I got to give him a few more weeks before I'm ready to hit the panic button and trying to drop him yet.
yeah, no, I agree. And I'm very hopeful that your Ridley prediction is correct because I have him several times. I'm gonna go with Dak Prescott for the Cowboys. Dak had like I believe like 7.9 points is in week one. That is not going to cut it for a guy who prognosticators were projecting could lead the league in passing. That's not really going to cut it in week one, but I'm not panicking yet. I think they found some balance. CD was getting open. I think they need a second receiver besides Jake Ferguson out there. They tried to target Pickens a little, so we should see him. There's another one that you could probably add to that list is George Pickens. He did you know get a couple of pass interference and penalties. He also kind of cost his team for one big penalty as well by taking a swipe at somebody. Um, and then I'm going to go with my $45 wide receiver, AJ Brown. They're going to target him. I think he'll have some slow weeks, but I think he's also going to have weeks where he's going to score 25 points. I don't think you should really get one catch a game. I think you have to get your playmakers involved. So hopefully, for my sake anyway. I'm not going to panic yet. If not, then I'm going to be looking for a different team name in that league to account for AJ's $45. I kind of skipped over. We mentioned it before. Jeff, what was the just awful call or just awful play that you had for this week one?
Yeah, I had three of them. It's in three leagues. My quarterback, Bo Nix, and Bo Nix. I thought he was going to do so much better, and he probably would have had he not turned the ball over three times. He did throw the ball 40 times, but only one touchdown. Like I said, two interceptions. Very costly fumble. He did not look good. He made some very poor passes in that game, and I was very high on him. So let's see how he rebounds. I get it. Tennessee is an underrated defense. They can bring a lot of pressure, especially when you're put up against what could be the number one defense in the league. You're going to step up your game. So we'll see how it goes the rest of the season. But that was just my awful call, especially since I have, I have Kyler Murray on one of the rosters, and I heard he was sick, so I benched him and put Nix in, and it was like that did not work out well for me. So cost me in one for sure.
Jacob, what do you got?
Yeah, so I'll give two. I think one of them would have been just drafting Chase and Higgins together, and I think the week one is the exact reason why I was worried about it. It wasn't the strategy. Well, tried it once. That will not happen again. But again, I'm not worried about them for the rest of the season. But overall, I think having them together, it's just not going to work out on a longevity scale here. And then I'm also going to say betting against the New York Jets. I think the Jets actually looked very good against the Steelers, and Steelers as well. So I think putting some money against the New York Jets was not, although they did end up losing, was not my best bet. And I think they're going to actually win quite a few more games this season than they did last year.
Yeah, my just awful call or draft pick or start was actually in the guillotine league that I'm in. I survived, which I was grateful for, but it was in no thanks to Miami's defense this week. Um, when I sent a note out to the just awful group text, Mr. Capus was 1,000% spot on. Like, what kind of an idiot drafts Miami's defense? Um, so, in spite of starting them, I survived. Needless to say, I am bit since I know this waivers go through tonight, and no one's going to watch this, this evening for waivers. I am dropping Miami's defense. I even bid a few bucks extra to pick up Dallas's defense for this week because I need to survive. So that was my really just awful call of the week.
Yeah, that's the Miami's defense. Any player or team that you see with the Dolphins logo next to it's probably for the rest of the season. It's not gonna unless you're in a very big emergency. It's not gonna work out as well for you as you would like it to. They
And I
did. They did not look good.
and I figured, that it was Daniel Jones starting against them when I drafted him, and it's 16 teams, so defenses were not exactly coming in abundance and available. So I'm like, let's take the Dolphins. Yeah, never again, never again, never again.
Yeah. What did Daniel Jones score on all 7 drives that he
All
played?
all of the drives, yes. I
He
don't even know
he.
that I've ever seen a game where they
I
scored
think
on
they
every
said
drive.
that's a new record.
Yeah, it was
That's
that was that one was off the TV very quickly. That one was off the TV quite soon after it started.
Yeah, it
Incredible.
was painful. So we have our first inquiry. I actually spoke to this gentleman live today. Bill in Pennsylvania has a huge trade offer. Like this one, I don't think I've seen in a while. So he would be giving up Jaden Daniels and Justin Jefferson. He would, in return, get back Josh Allen and CeeDee Lamb. A 2-for-2
Did he
swap.
make this offer, or was this offered to him?
This was offered to him because the other opponent has a man crush on Jaden Daniels and really wants Jaden Daniels. I don't know how the other players came into the mix, but I think it's almost a no brainer, right? You guys
Yeah,
concur?
It is a no-brainer.
you take it.
Josh Allen is highly rated, higher than Daniels. CD Lamb is rated higher than JJ. JJ did have a decent game, but I think CD will not have the drops that he had in the first game, and he's going to have a huge year. They're always going to be behind. I pull the trigger, say yes right away before he pulls it back.
Yes, Jacob, you concur?
Yeah, you say yes to Josh Allen. He's going to be the number one fantasy quarterback again this year. It's not particularly close to me. We all watched that Sunday night game. What a game! And that's going to be a lot of points. Once CD figures out the drops, CD would have probably had, I don't know, 10 more points if he just doesn't drop the football. He's a top wide receiver. That is an absolutely yes. I don't even have to think too much about it. That's a accept now, and then hopefully he doesn't try to take it back or get it vetoed by the commissioner.
If he did that, then I would have only lost by 30 points in that other league instead of 40 points. So
Yeah,
that would
yeah.
have been great. Jeff, do you have any pickups for the week or people that you might want to stash away?
I was going through the waiver wire and I didn't see anybody that really jumped out. There's some guys at the top like Quentin Johnston, and I'm just not totally sold that he's going to be a long-term sustainer. I see it as one of those first couple of weeks of the season pop, and then they get into their groove and he kind of fades back in. So don't look for 2 touchdowns out of Quentin Johnston every week. I didn't see anything else that really jumped at me on the waiver wire other than what we've talked about.
Jacob?
Yeah, if you need a quarterback, I'd look at Justin Fields. I think Fields looked pretty good in certain situations, depending on the scoring that you're in. I look at Justin Fields maybe if you really need a quarterback to rotate in, depending on how many teams you like. Keenan Allen's a receiver I'd consider. I've seen him on a couple waiver wires that maybe, but I wouldn't pull the trigger quite yet. I think you need to wait another week, as kind of Jeff said with that. But I think if you need a quarterback, Justin Fields is not a terrible option to look at on your waiver wire.
Yeah, I'm going to go with somebody who actually didn't play in week 1 and is not going to play in week 2. So if you have roster space, which at this point of the season you probably don't, um, but like I was going to bring him up in a super flex league just at a potential. We actually don't have a roster spot, but Jackson Dart. Um, Russell Wilson did no es look bueno. And I don't think that's really going to change. I think they're kind of for everything I've read, they're waiting for the offensive line to get a little healthier so they can keep Russ in there. But for all signs point to Jackson Dart playing because he played pretty well in the preseason. and you didn't draft him in the what was it, the first or second round for nothing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
he's gonna get touches.
I would keep an eye. I would keep an eye on him. Don't pull the trigger yet, right? It's not worth a roster spot because he's not playing.
Right.
But that brings up a good point that um, you know if you don't have a roster spot available or someone to drop, don't make a transaction just to make a transaction, right? There's some guys on the waiver wire, but you drafted guys on your roster because of their potential, and I didn't see a lot of big injuries this weekend, so you generally don't have, other than George Kittle, I think might be the biggest
Yeah,
one. But if you don't have a big injury, then I didn't see anything that's going to supplant something that I already have on my roster that I researched ahead of a draft.
What do you
agreed.
guys think? What do you guys think? There was a couple of names that I kind of popped on here that got a lot of usage in week one. One was Kaysen Boutte from New England. So we mentioned Drake May not having a rough week, but Boutte got a bunch of targets. I think he had like 80 yards receiving, no touchdowns. And then the rookie tight end for Cleveland, Harold Fenn Jr., had like 8 targets for another 60 yards, and he played at the same time as Njoku. So they went two tight end set for like most of the game, and he got the majority of the thing. So maybe like Jeff, you mentioned George Kittle. Maybe you pick up a Harold Fannin Jr. if there's not too much else out there. Like you said, upside.
Yeah, it's not a horrible idea. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see a little bit more sample than just one game to see
Sure.
if that sustains, because they do still have Njoku, and he's still as good as ever, I think. So I'd like to see it sustained. But yeah, if you're in a desperation move and you do have a roster spot, that's not a horrible play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it also depends on how long you think Cleveland's quarterback situation is gonna stay the same because most teams that have Joe Flacco, as much as I'm a fan of him, tend to move on after a few weeks. He's not going to be a perfect quarterback. He's not. They're not going to go 16-0, 15-1, anything like that. They're going to lose quite a few games this year. So I think it's interesting about if you're going to pick up a receiver or a tight end from Cleveland. I think interesting to watch and what their quarterback situation is going to look like because every quarterback has a different favorite target. And so I think you kind of need to see just a little bit more on how Flacco looks. If Flacco looks good, then yeah, maybe you do consider pulling the trigger. But I think you have to have a bigger sample size than one game with the quarterback.
So, Jeff, what is your game of the week for this weekend? Do you have a particular game circled on the schedule for this week?
This week I have the Cardinals and Panthers because I'm going to that game. That's the main one that I've got circled.
Hmm.
No, I would look at probably. Oh, let me. I was not prepared for this, so give me one
Sorry,
moment
I
to
just
look at
came
it.
up with that
Too.
one.
Not in the rundown, guys. Not in the
Was
rundown.
it in? Was it in a rundown?
So
Jacob,
come
you can
on,
start
internet.
looking too.
All right.
Yeah, I got one. We're good.
Let's go quickly. Oh, well, obviously, Philly and Kansas City is
Yep,
a big
that's the one I
deal,
was.
right? Let's see
Super Bowl
how.
rematch. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's two really good teams. Let's look at. I mean, Buffalo and the Jets is going to be
I
kind of
have that
exciting
one.
to see how the Jets can handle a Buffalo um, offense like that. It's at home for the Jets, so maybe that'll help them a little bit. So, I mean, maybe those are probably the two that I'd look at first and foremost.
Jacob, you mentioned Kansas City and Philly. What else?
Yeah, obviously Kansas City, Philly. That's a big one. I'm actually looking at Atlanta versus Minnesota. I think they kind of had similar kind of games. They both had moments in which they looked really good and moments in which they struggled a lot. So with two young quarterbacks, I'll be intrigued to see that one. And I'm also really excited for that Thursday night game, Commanders Packers. That's for a Thursday night game early in the season. Those are two pretty good teams. So I'm intrigued to see what goes on there and if Green Bay can sustain what they did last week.
Yeah, well, we need Jaden Daniels in that super flex league, so hopefully, Jaden does well. I'm gonna add two more to that list. I had a couple of those as well. Um, Jacksonville and Cincinnati. They're both 1-0. Jacksonville, we're not really sure what they have because they played Carolina, who looked bad, and then like we've already talked about Cincinnati. Let's see what happens in week two. You never know. And then I'm going to throw you. Everybody mentioned how well the Chargers played. Vegas didn't look too bad. I think they're looking to play. You got a division game week 2. I think this one could be very tight. I think this one's going to be. If you had asked me this last year, we would have said Chargers in a walk. This year, I don't know. It could be
Two
tough. Week
two
2.
former NFC West coaches
Division
right there.
game.
And these coaches have coached against each other plenty of times in division.
Yeah, and
Those 2013, 2015 years with Harbaugh and Carroll in the NFC West over there. We all know it quite well.
You were only 2 years old. You don't remember that stuff.
Chargers could start out 2-0.
I remember plenty.
Yeah. So I think that's what we got for week 2. It should be an interesting week, Jeff. I don't think we play each other this week. I think next week or the week after, I think we play each other in like 2 leagues. I
think I play you.
I played this
play
young
you
man
this week.
in the league that I lost by 40. So one Fredericks will get a victory in that league, and one will be 0-2. So
or we can tie in that league. There actually is ties in this particular.
There actually are ties,
and there's
that
no
league,
decimal and there's no decimal points, no tiebreakers. So
yeah, the commissioner lives in the dark ages.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, be free to email us at questions@Just AwFFL Sports. That's just AwFFL Sports.com. Please email us your start sit questions or any other fantasy questions you might have, or even some life advice. Maybe we can give you some.
Yeah, that's Jeffy's job, not mine. And that's Just AwFFL Sports on YouTube or Spotify. So for Jacob Fredericks, for Mr. Jeff Capus, I'm Andrew Fredericks. We will talk to you next week. Good luck.